Hi, nice to see you. I'm making this video about super powders because super powders have been a massive, protein powders have been a massive interest for me. Nutrition in general has been, since I was a child, just a huge passion. In recent years, when I started eating more consciously, which started with less meat or organic meat, and then a few years down the line, then I was really intuitively and very much through my cravings led to become vegan. And now I'm mainly vegan, apart from the occasional little piece of meat that I eat when I just feel massively craving towards it or want to trigger myself that I'm not perfect vegan. So this powder is something that I have made from various different powders that I've collected over time. I mean, they're not that old, but I've reordered, reused, tried and tested. And because I got into veganism and got into health foods, I naturally became very interested in protein powders, which you're probably aware of. And I found them great. They got me through the day when I needed a supercharged morning. Useful to give me the nutrients that I didn't know how to get in the vegan diet, but I was nevertheless enjoying it. But I also found them expensive. So they were tasty, they were yum with a banana and some yogurt and some nut milk in there, but they were expensive to buy, and a lot of the time the ingredients weren't exactly what I wanted. And I was also adding all of my own supplementary powders to it. So then I just sort of thought, well, why don't I just buy the bulk ingredients of the protein that makes it sort of like the flours that they put in, and then add all my superfood powders to that, and I've got my own concoction, which is something I love to do, is make something magical, something out of my own heart and my own hands. So this is what I've created. So I put it in this jar here, and I called it the Goddess Magic Powder. And it says here, contains superpowers. Yeah. And the reason why I made this label is because it's very much about writing your intention and blessing it with the phrases and the words which sort of cast that prayer over the entire food. So it really empowers the food to become what it's named. These are kind of tests that, actually proven tests that people have done, have written things on different items. You can search it on YouTube about how the effectiveness of naming things and labeling and speaking towards objects can actually affect them and their resonance. So that's something I did that I personally really connect with. And so let me talk through what I put in this powder. So I've written my recipe here, and I just want to grab it so I can see. Okay. So my main ingredient that I really wanted to get in as a superfood, so I'm going to talk about those first and then the bulk, is this Maca powder. And a lot of the products I use are from Raw Living, which I really recommend. It's a British company who ships through Europe. I guess they ship worldwide as well. And their products are really integrous and like the best quality I've ever used. And I just find that the service is amazing. And they've just got such a huge selection of things. So they're also really fun. So Maca, climb every mountain. So Maca is really great for your stamina, for going and getting, for the power to get up and go. And it's also great for women's cycles. So it rebalances you. When I first started taking it regularly, in the last couple of years, though I had taken it many years before then, I didn't really take it regularly. So when I started taking it regularly to intend to see what the effect would be, it changed my periods, and they actually were more painful the first time, because it can do that. It can heighten any things that you carry and express through your cycle when you bleed. So it helps you deal with your emotions. And it is basically called an adaptogen. So it helps you deal with stress. There's different types of adaptogens, they have different effects. I would like to state that I'm not qualified in any health certificate, so just so you're aware of that. This is all my own research and trial and error. And then I add the beautiful ashwagandha. Now this they say on the label here, ask the angels. So ashwagandha is just a beautiful, amazing powder. And a lot of these powders all come from native cultures around the world who have ancient practices revolving around these superfoods. So there's a lot of history there. Ashwagandha for me is something that I've used to calm my nervous system. When I left my job and last year, and I was adapting to the new transition, I had a lot of stress just built up from just like we all do, and ashwagandha helped me to help my stress to be shifted from one element to another, so that I could start to be eased, really. So that's the power of ashwagandha. It's calming and it's soothing, and so you can add just a little. So there's all of the how much to add and things is all on the back of these packages. So then I add a little cacao. There's all sorts of measurements, but I'm not going to put this here. So then I add cacao. Cacao is amazing, especially if it's raw, which basically cacao is. It's raw cocoa. Then it doesn't have the same effect that cocoa does, which is a caffeinated effect. So cacao in the morning for me doesn't act as a caffeine, or in the evening. That's my experience. It might be different for you. Cacao supports all of the other superfoods. So I've learnt actually, as I've been researching, listen to different people talk about health, cacao can support other superfoods to be to their highest vibrancy as well, and it tastes great. Then I add some carob powder. Carob powder is very similar to cacao. You might see like carob bars selling in the store for like dairy-free options or sugar-free options, because it's basically a sweetener. And it has a kind of a strong smell and taste, which is, for me, it's like an earthy chocolate taste. It's very good for your digestive system, apparently. It's a good filler. I put in some lucuma, which is like a golden powder. It's called the gold of the gods, and or was it gold of the Incas? I can't quite remember, but it's basically a super revered powder. They won't let you export the fruit, actually, only the powder form from the place. So basically it does have like interesting health benefits, and it's a massive sweetener. So it's a good sweetener to use. It's just expensive. Okay. The next one I use is I put some greens in. So it's really good to get greens in the morning because it helps cleanse. And this isn't really a cleanser because it's full of stuff as well. But I like to get in some green stuff. So I have Chlorella, which helps restructure your cells and oxidative stress and all this kind of stuff. And spirulina, which is great protein. Unfortunately, this isn't raw spirulina. There's not quite as much benefits as there would be with raw spirulina. But it's still pretty good. Try and get organic products if you can, because that means that they are free of pesticides. Depending where you're getting it from, there might be higher likelihoods of pesticides in some countries, possibly. Okay, then I put in some hemp seeds. So I grind them up. I just want to get in some extra protein and really make out the filler. So I grind up hemp seeds, and I also grind up chia seeds, because I did recently learn that chia seeds, their nutrients are more readily absorbable when they're ground up. So I add hemp seeds and chia seeds together, ground them up, and I also grind up some bee pollen. And bee pollen really just gives you a buzz to just go about your day and be a busy bee in the lightest and most gracious way, and full of vitamins. So it's really, really good to take a teaspoon a day. So I put some of that in and I grind it up. And last thing I add is some coconut sugar. So just for extra sweetness, I add a little coconut sugar. You can also add like ground up soaked and activated nuts or oats. I don't do that because I'm using this as a topper to my cereal or as in a smoothie, so I don't need to add any more carby stuff. Cacao nibs is also a great addition. So here it is again, and it's all in powder form and it's kind of green on the edges. And this really, the testimony of this is that since I made it, I started feeling amazing that I made this myself and really self-creatively. And also it's worked, and I can tell when I'm missing nutrients in my diet, and I can tell when in the morning I haven't had a sufficient enough breakfast, because I do feel that I need a very nutritional brekkie. So it's worked. I feel powered up and ready to go, and I'm digesting it really well, and it's giving me the satisfaction of all of my supportive superfoods going into that one powder. Yeah. Just turning my page so I can see what else I wrote about why I made it, as if I need to remember, but it's really calming and supportive. As I said, for the vegan diet, it is amazing, and it's super easy. So like, when you have one of these in the morning and you have to go out to work, you don't really want to be like, oh, I'm just going to put a teaspoon of this or that in. Like, it's just annoying, and I hated doing that. Whereas now it's just, I take 2 tablespoons of this because that's my estimation, but it depends what you put in and how much you put in. On top of my cereal, I have some coconut yogurt and a bit of oat milk, and I all mix it in, and it's just really luscious. Yeah, and then there's a pure magic of just creating something yourself, putting your own heart into something and creating that frequency of love around and through it, empowering it to be what it is. And it's real, for me, it's just the most effective thing about it is that it's self-love. And I decided to spend the time making this super powder as an act of personal self-love. So that in itself is the deal for me. So yeah, so thank you for watching. And one of my dreams and intentions for the future is that I actually make my own powders and be able to sell them and give them to other people. And also learn more, educate myself more through courses and research, so that I can also have more expertise in this area. Okay, thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you again. Bye.